All right, so Sony's betting big on live service. Just how big are we talking about? About $2.1 billion they're looking to invest by the end of fiscal year 2024, which already happened. So aside from that, for the year ending in March 2026, they want by then no fewer than 12 live service games in their portfolio, which is just crazy. So we got the first one that just released like 2 days ago, Concord. It is a Overwatch, Fortnite clone. Who doesn't want more of those, right? So what does 100 million in 5 years have to show to Sony? About 66% on Metacritic and 64 on OpenCritic, with 10% of critics recommending it, which is rough. But I'm sure, you know, scores, critics, not everyone always pays attention to that. The gamers, right? It's all about what do they have to say. And what they have to say is not looking much better either. In fact, that's one of the lowest all-time peaks I've ever seen. That sucks for the devs that worked on this game, but what does 660 look like? That is about a high school football stadium. So that's about how many people are supporting the game, at least at launch. You got both teams that showed up to play. Right now, you got about 292 players. So you got about one team left on the stadium just supporting the game and playing their hearts out. Even Redfall was higher than that, and that game was just awful. That's like 2 stadiums. And that's not the only live service flop Sony has had. We also had The Last of Us 2 multiplayer live service game that we all know Naughty Dog was working on for 4 years. It was recently scrapped. How much did that one cost, you may ask? Well, according to a leak we had before, we know Sony's big budget games cost a lot. Horizon Forbidden West was about $212 million to develop over a 5-year period, and Last of Us 2 was around $220. I think that was their highest, and I believe that one had 200 people. According to Jason Schreier in this talk he's having here, and he's generally pretty spot on with what he says and what he knows inside the business, it's been in development for about 4 years with a team in the hundreds. Obviously an expensive project. Do I think it was 220 or 200? No, but it's probably not out of the question to assume it was about 100 million. So you take that 100 million from Concord, you take the 100 million from Last of Us Part 2 multiplayer, we could have had 2 new Borderlands movies. That is tragic, honestly. So all that is to say, not a great start for Sony's live service endeavors. We still got about 10 to come by March 2026. That's less than 2 years away. I hope this makes them reconsider. No one wants this shit. Sony's known for their single player games. I think a lot of the reason they're doing this is their single player games, although, you know, critically acclaimed, just don't have a lot of long legs to carry them past when they initially release and sell a lot, or so they think. I think the reality is they're just looking for more ways to milk the consumer. How do you do that? Live service games. You buy your cosmetics, you buy your skins, all the extra maps and all that extra bullshit, and that's what they're betting on, which is sad. Sony's known for single player games. I hope they go back to that. And as far as Naughty Dog, I don't know what they have to show aside from this. I mean, I think they have about 400 people, so not everyone was working on the scrapped multiplayer thing, but damn, that's a lot of people. We probably would have had something by now. They haven't even given us an idea of what the next game is. I hope there's gonna be a part 3 to Last of Us. Part 2 just didn't do the greatest job wrapping up the story. I don't really know what the point of it is. He always said, Neil Druckmann himself, I believe, said he was only ever going to make a part 2 if it was a story worth telling. I don't think that's what the revenge porn that was The Last of Us 2 was. I think The Last of Us 1 could have stood on its own as a fantastic game. So they needed part 3 to wrap that all up and give everyone some kind of closure, because we don't know really what's up with Abby and Ellie, right? I mean, I don't know exactly what this lesson they were trying to teach us. We can go into it, but I don't think it's even that deep about forgiveness and that there's no winners and revenge and vengeance and all that. I think really it's just not a great story, and they could do a much better job and wrap it up in a nicer way for part 3. Do I think part 2 was as awful as a lot of people said? Not at all. I played it and enjoyed it. The story wasn't great, and I've only ever played it once. I replayed part 1 at least 3 times. So if my opinion counts for anything, just let the fact that I replayed the first one multiple times, and I always will, I have no urge to go back to the second. I think part of the reason is it was kind of a slog, and in the switch up part way, it's just a rough game to get through. I don't regret doing it, and I still think there was a lot of cool things they did, but as a whole, it was a slog, and the story is just not one I have any intention or urge to go back to. Hope Sony has something better to show, more single player games coming out soon. And I just hope that these flops in the live service space just make them rethink things just a little bit. And on another unrelated note, I made a video a couple days ago mentioning kind of all the controversy about Black Myth Wukong and sort of a recap there, and just journalism and in general how divided everything is and how extreme sides can be on fringe on both ends. I wanted to show some tweets from one of the articles of that IGN article or hit piece, you know, that went after Black Myth Wukong, and it was kind of disingenuous because they mistranslated some things to make it look perhaps worse than it did. Folks that know the language better are saying some of the things said there have kind of double meaning, and they didn't really provide that context. So they took what was said in that article without providing context for the meeting to make it look even worse. It's a mess. I just think gaming journalists could be so fucking nasty. But that topic was about taking sides and how crazy people can be when they go too extreme, and why I think moderatism is generally better. You're probably in a better headspace and happier if you're able to understand that you can agree with something here while disagreeing with something there. You're not so fucking single track minded that you just have to pick a side like a sports team. And one thing I didn't bring up in the last article, people that often shout super loud, I've noticed, about a particular issue are often projecting, and they're usually themselves suspected of the thing they're projecting about. So in this case, if you look at articles from before, from this archive, he's basically admitting he hates white people. So in this case, this person's projecting about a bunch of other shit, and he himself is essentially a racist. Although he's saying you can't be racist against white people because that's reverse racism. That's reversed racism, but that's a bunch of fucking baloney. The one, you can look through all of this if you want. The one real comment, it's a whole bunch of just garbage, and he's talking like, I have a big brain. Your small white brain can't possibly comprehend. I have big Asian brain. I'm much smarter than you. But the one thing I really want to focus on is this tweet right here. So he says, do I hate white people? Yes. And if you're a friend, you understand why this is never personal. I've never heard a more bullshit, contradictory, fucking asinine statement in my life. You can't have friends if you hate them. Like, at your core, if you hate someone, how can they ever be a friend? And how would anyone be a friend of this racist garbage person in the first place that just hates you at such a personal level and think because of the color of your skin, you just have this kind of privilege, regardless of where you were born in, just innate privilege just because of the color of your skin. You'll always have better opportunities. A white person versus against even him, an Asian person will always have more privilege, even if they're a hick born in just the poorest fucking place in the country. You'll just always have more white privilege. I think stuff like that is a dangerous kind of thought process to tread with. Just can't overstate just how ridiculous this is. So literally just replace white with any other race and tell me that doesn't sound racist as fuck. But then again, he's kind of has a shield up because it's reverse racism. It's reverse racism. You can only be racist if you're white. If you're any other race, you can't be racist, apparently. So just thought I'd bring it up to tie it into just how ridiculous gaming journalism is today. Like, this is a writer that contributed to IGN on that article. These are supposed to be writing about games. When did we get to this point of these insane social issues and just that you're allowed to say shit like this and still be hired by a major publication? IGN isn't a Vice or like some, super extreme kind of media platform that, to my understanding, talks about these kind of issues. I thought they were just a gaming site. I didn't understand that you can have such like extreme hot takes for just gaming. We're just trying to play games for fuck's sake. So I just think this is disgusting, and I think his whole big brain argument is just ridiculous. It doesn't matter how many credentials and awards he's won. I just think if you have this kind of mindset, you're a garbage person. You're a garbage human being, and you should suck a huge bag of dicks. So yeah, this is why it can get dangerous to have such fringe mindsets. This is where it will lead you to have insane hatred for a specific group of people. It's sad. I don't see how you can possibly be this person's friend if you're white. That is just ridiculous. You must just hate yourself so much and have no respect for yourself if you can even call yourself a friend of this type of person. So yeah, the one thing with the French, they're often just very angry. Doesn't matter which side I'm talking about, just extreme viewpoints in general. They're just often very angry. I honestly think if you take a super extreme side, either way, doesn't fucking matter. You're just going to be very miserable. I think if you're able to actually have more empathy and can be a little bit more multi-track minded, I think you'll be better off in life. I honestly think if there's anything to take away from this, just never pick a side like it's a sports team. Some will argue, well, then you're a coward, you're trying to have your cake and eat it too, but I think it's not about that. I think you should be able to grow and change your opinions with time. And I don't think this person will change their opinion no matter what, because they're just so full of themselves and they're convinced they're right no matter what. That's different. Some people will respect that for being consistent with their opinions, but it's this kind of extremist that's going to lead to more divide across the world, and it always does. So literally, I'm reading this and it feels like something, someone from Germany in the 1940s would say, straight up. You know who I'm talking about. So yeah, this is insane. Hope one day this person will have a little bit more, love in their heart, I guess.